Welcome to another edition of the Not Just Giants podcast. I'm your host, Matt, and I'm here to, unfortunately, talk about a horrifying 40-0 blowout loss that the Giants suffered week 1 to the Cowboys. Like I said in my preview, would I be surprised if this seemingly new and improved Giants team lost to the Cowboys in week 1? No, I would not be surprised. But if anyone had asked me whether I could have imagined the Giants would lose 40-0, no, I did not see that coming. I did not think that despite the last game the Giants played in January against the Eagles, a 38-7 blowout loss with a much more limited roster, would have been a better indicator of what to expect in this game against the Dallas Cowboys, but it was. What has not changed, and the last two games clearly show it, is that the Giants' O-line is not ready for primetime against premier defensive fronts like the Cowboys and the Eagles, and especially the right side of the offensive line with right guard Mark Lewinsky and right tackle Evan Neal. The Giants will not be able to take advantage of their speed upgrade at receiver with more explosive plays or even sustained drives if they can't adequately pass protect. Ironically, the very first drive of the game, before they started playing from behind, the run blocking looked solid, keeping the Dallas D on its heels as the Giants drove down the field. A false start on 3rd and 2, a botched shotgun snap with a wet football, a blocked field goal scoop and touchdown score later, and the wheels came off. The rest of the game, with New York playing from behind, Dallas's talented front was able to pin their ears back against the Giants' increasingly one-dimensional, pass-only offense as the Cowboys racked up sacks, QB hits, and pressures at a dizzying rate, with more stalled drives and turnovers ensuing for the Giants. Even with the offseason upgrades on both sides of the ball, when the Giants play good teams like Dallas and Philadelphia, and there will be a number of other good teams on this year's schedule, with the limitations in pass pro on the right side of the offensive line, if they can't keep the game close, which means the original game plan by necessity gets thrown away, blowout losses are, as we've now seen, not only possible, but increasingly likely. That said, I've got to take a moment to tip my hat to this Mike McCarthy, Dan Quinn-led Dallas squad. They did look awesome. Their lights-out defense led by the unstoppable force, Micah Parsons, with high-level talent on all three levels of the defense and solid depth behind the starters, might arguably be the best in the league this year. And with such an elite defense, I think Mike McCarthy's more conservative, short passing game, West Coast offense, is a good match, since although they may lack some of the flash we saw under former OC Kellen Moore, the chance for turnovers from Dak is reduced, which means the offense won't lose you some games you should win. On Sunday night, statistically, Prescott's numbers were modest, but playing with a lead largely gifted to him by the defense and special teams, he just had to be a solid game manager, and he was. Once again, just as we saw transpire in the two games in 2022, the Giants were unable to sack Dak Prescott even once, which was concerning considering the talent the Giants have in their front four, with a healthy Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Azeez Ojulari, and Kayvon Thibodeau. Meanwhile, the Giants' two rookie corners, Kay Banks and Trey Hawkins, the biggest concern coming into the game, acquitted themselves well in their first NFL contest. Obviously, we're far more likely to see this defense shine with more pressure and turnovers in closer games against lesser opponents, but that does at least for now prove that the Giants have not, despite much off-season hype, closed the gap against the league's best teams. It was a truly embarrassing opening night, nationally televised loss, and a humbling experience for Daniel Jones, Brian Daboll, and the organization as a whole. Let's see if the Giants can find a way to improve their offensive line play against their next opponent, as they travel to Arizona to play the rebuilding Cardinals, and then 4 days later face what may even be a tougher test than the Cowboys as they square off against perennial NFC Super Bowl caliber contender, the San Francisco 49ers, in the 49ers building. I really do think that if this Giants team can find a way to get better at pass protection, they can compete against anyone in the NFL. But if they're unable to do that, they will continue to struggle mightily against talented front sevens with, as we've just seen, potentially ugly or even at times disastrous results.